Hi there, this is a video on how to change the spark plugs on a 2007 model Yamaha YZF R1, which I think is the same on a 2008 model. Not sure, that's what I've been told. First of all, you've got to take the fairings off. The big fairings, one each side. It's just one single piece each side, and this is it. And the indicator unit comes off along with it, so you don't need to remove it separately. It has a little electrical connector there which simply pops off, and the fairings themselves are held on with two types of fasteners. One is the little metal fastener that looks like that. Don't know the name of them, don't like them. Sort of non-standard, strange fitting. Trying to get the damn thing to focus here. Anyway, it's a hex fitting at the top, an Allen key, so you turn them, turn them a half a turn, and the things pop out. They're supposed to stay on with this little plastic flange, I think, but they just sort of pop out, so you can take them off easily. And then you've got the horrible, even more horrible type of fitting, because they break so easily. They're used on all kinds of modern vehicles. It's this little plastic stud. It's not a broken one. It's made of two parts. I can't press it together with one hand, but that's the middle part feeds into the outer part. And the way to get these out, there are, I think, 3 at the front from memory that pop in around these fittings. This is the floppy bit. It comes up under the fork tops, and I think there were either 3 or 5, but you know, you'll see them around the place. That they're fairly obvious when you look inside. Several of them inside, and several of them going up. Take them off one by one, and once you've got those and the metal fittings out, you just pop the fairing off. Now the fairing itself is a bit of a flimsy design. I don't like this part especially, where they have little plastic clips sort of designed to break. So I'm trying to show you the whole fairing so you know where it's oriented. But there's a little clip and it's facing that way, so you have to slide it to the right to get it off. Difficult to show with a camera perhaps in this light. This little pipe comes down, so I think that's levering onto another bit of plastic. This sliding part comes forwards, and this sliding part comes forwards. So I'll try and get a better view of it there, so you know which way you've got to pull them. So you're sliding the fairing backwards in order to take them off. So it's not a difficult job, but it's just a little bit unpleasant with the worry that you're going to break something all the time. It's flimsy. I don't like it at all. It's a real shame, because these bikes are brilliant. The engine's brilliant. Why couldn't they take a little more trouble with the fairings, you know? Anyway, whinge over for a second. The radiator comes forwards with the undoing of 3 bolts. There's a bolt right in the bottom at the centre of the radiator, where my finger is, where you absolutely can't see it with this camera. Sorry, guys. Anyway, centre at the bottom. And then there's a bolt each side, again, where you absolutely can't see it on this picture. There's one bolt into the frame just behind the fork here, at the top left and top right almost of the radiator. And when you've undone all 3 of them, you leave all the pipes on. You don't need to touch the pipe work at all, and it just falls forwards and down slightly. And you do have to take these cables off just to give it a bit of leeway and to access where the spark plugs are. And the spark plugs themselves, these huge round things, are the suppressor caps. So these pull out in line with the cylinder. They literally pull out. There's no fixing at all. And of course, they're very difficult to pull out. And there's a little L-shaped piece of plastic that holds the wires that go in there. So, you know, you could use a screwdriver. I must say, I was very nervous about doing that. You know, I did try at one point to get it in there. That's just a sort of a dust cap to keep water and dust out. And there's always a worry that that's going to break. And always the worry that the little L-shaped piece that comes out of the suppressor cap will break easily. And God knows how much a new one of these costs. So in the end, it really was just a question of wrecking my fingers and getting my hands on there and pulling and pulling and pulling, you know, carefully but firmly. Horrible job. And that's just the outer one. Of course, you've got 4, you've got 2 further in on each side. So you've got to take both fairings off, obviously, one each side. And I found it a very unpleasant job. Anyway, once you've got in there, you've got the suppressor cap out, the spark plugs themselves are very far down in towards the cylinder. So you need a long reach socket like this. This is a 10mm socket. with a 1/4 inch fitting. And what I found was that it would inevitably separate, so that the socket itself would be left in there and the short extender would come out, leaving the whole damn thing in there, because the rubber in here, this is a rubber insert on the inside, it's designed to grip the spark plug, that would stick onto the spark plug itself. So yeah, I super glued these together and that seemed to work. I'm sure I can break them apart easily enough when I need to, but it was enough to help this come out. Now, to actually, once you've loosened each spark plug carefully, you often find that it will drop out of the socket completely, and what you can do is use a small piece of pipe like this. I've got a spark plug somewhere here I can show you. So you just push this pipe carefully down and onto the spark plug, and once it's covered the spark plug, that cap is, I left this cap on here to show you. When spark plugs are new, they always come with this little extra bit for some suppressor caps. Unscrew these, you don't want these for this type of cap, and remember to do that, otherwise you do the silly thing I did and leave it on the first time I did it. I had to take it out again. So yeah, you can push this rubber pipe over there and then it grips it, and you can use it to pull the spark plug out. And it's what they, it's just sort of one of these old tricks that's handy. Putting the new spark plugs in, probably most people know this, but you never start screwing with a tool, whether it's a spanner or a socket or whatever, because if you cross thread it, you're going to cause a huge amount of damage and expense. So you always start to screw the spark plug holding the socket and extender by hand, just very, very gently, until you feel the thread starting and you feel it pulling and you're sure you're not going to cross thread it, at which point you can put on your spanner or your ratchet and do it up tightly. When it comes to how tightly to do it up, I've done quite a few in the past, so I know roughly. When you buy a brand new spark plug, they usually have a compressible washer. So the first time you put the washer in, you feel it getting tighter and tighter and tighter steadily until you get a different feel, and you can sort of turn it 1/4 of a turn, and don't over tighten the threads and break the threads, obviously, or you're in for massive expense again. So if you want to go down the torque spanner route, great, but I don't see how you would fit one in there easily. So it is a matter of feel, really. If you need to take this out again and put it in again, of course it's got a different feel, because you're not crushing this crushable washer, it's already been crushed. So that's just a matter of experience, just tightening it down until it really gets stiff, and then perhaps a 1/4 of a turn extra, and it's done. So in terms of things that can go wrong on these Yamahas, there is a fairly common fault where the apparatus which stops the thing from starting, I can't remember what they're called now in English, good lord, I've been overseas too long, but they've got a mechanism which inhibits the start process, so you cannot start the bike. And there's a common fault where apparently the cooling fans, or something to do with the cooling fans, breaks it. Now I've had this one fixed, I didn't see the process, I don't know where it is, but if your bike doesn't start at all at some point, it's usually that. I had some mechanics look at it in some countries, didn't have a clue. I had a friend in Switzerland with a bike shop, fixed it very quickly, very simply. It's not a big job if you know what you're doing. But I thought I'd add that in case anyone has a similar problem ever, because the bike just absolutely will not start. And it is apparently because a wire has been chewed through, as I understand it. So you may find also that, as I did, that this cooling fan on the other side, actually, it was just rubbing on the radiator slightly. Don't know why, but all I did was put a washer in. It's got 3 attachments. It's got this lower bolt, and it's got this bolt at the top of the radiator, and then one further in near the top of the radiator. And just by putting a washer in there, I was able to space the fan out just by a millimetre, so it turns smoothly and fine. I think that pretty much sums it up, gives people enough idea to be able to put their spark plugs in themselves, because I've no idea what it costs in a motorbike shop, but it's such a fiddly job. This is the first time I've done it on an R1. There wasn't much information on the internet, a few clues here and there, but I would say it's taken me probably best part of 3 hours in slightly cramped conditions, quite a few mosquitoes about to swat and make things even more annoying. And here's the reservoir for the coolant, so while you've got the fairings off, of course, you can fill the thing up. And one more thing I could mention is these little cable ties, which come wrapped around in certain parts of the wiring. You have to undo them to get it off. They're quite nice in that they're reusable. There's a little press tab here. You press it down and they pop off, and you can put them back on. And it's worth making a little note of where they go, because you don't want to get any trapped wiring or wiring touching anything hot in this very, very compact motorbike. Anyway, I hope that's helped a few people, and best wishes, lads. Cheers.